नूरे दस्तगीर या दस्तगीर नूर, करम कर करीमा, रहम करो या परवरदिगार, मदद करो या नबी, ज़रतुश्त्र तारी पातशाही। बनामे यज़द बख्शायंदे, बख्शाइश गरे मेहरबान, यथा अहू वैर्यो यथा रतूष, अशात चीत हचा, वंगे ऊश, दज़दाव मनिंगो, शौते ननाम, अंग्यूज मज़दाय, शत्रम चाय, अहूराय आइम, दरेगोप्यो ददतवास्ता रहम, यथा अहू वैर्यो यथा रतूष, अशाचित हचा, वंगे ऊश, दज़दाव मनिंगो, शौते ननाम, अंग्यूज मज़दाय, शत्रम चाय, अहूराय आइम, दरेगोप्यो ददतवास्ता रहम, अशेम वहू बहिश्तम वस्ती, उस्ता अस्ति, उस्ता माय यदशाय, बहिश्ताय अशेम। सरोश यज़दनी पनाह हो जोजी। Thank you.
Thank you, Frini. We now have the English version of the Islamic prayer by Mr. Janaki Ram.
In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Praise be to Allah, cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, master of the day of judgment. You alone do we worship. Your help alone do we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom you have bestowed thy grace, those who have not incurred your anger, nor who have not gone astray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Janaki Ram. Now we have the Christian prayer by Mr. Ravi Gerard.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Ravi. We now have the Sikh prayer by Mr. Gulu Advani.
Ekwan ka Satnam, Karta Purkh Nirbhav Nirvair, Akal Murat Ajodi Saibang, Gur Prasad Jap, Ad Sach, Jugad Sach, Hai bhi Sach, Nanak ho se bhi Sach. सोचे सोच न होवै जे सोचे लखवार, चुप चुप न होवै जे लाए रहा लिबतार, मुखिया बुख न उतरी जे बन्ना पुरिया भार, सहस्याणा पालक होवै त एक न चले नाल, किव सचियारा होइए किव कूरे टूटे पार, हुक्म रजाई चल रहा नानक लिखिया नाल। वाहिगुरु जी दा खालसा, वाहिगुरु जी दी फतेह। बोले सो निहाल, सत श्री अकाल।
Thank you, Gulu. And now I request Mr. Ravi Gerard to introduce us.
Yes. Good evening. Dr. Shruthi was inspired by medical profession since childhood and chose to be a doctor to serve humanity. She graduated from the Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Science, Bangalore, Karnataka. Her Guruji inspired her to go deeper in the knowledge of health and showed the path to serve humanity. She is working in the field of holistic health and yoga under the guidance of Guruji. Yoga Shastra says, by controlling pulse, many diseases are controlled. She has got special interest in women and child health. Her vision is to invite the child to the world in nature pleasant environment for which water labor is the best known method. She is also happy to serve as a trustee of the Chudiksha Trust, Public Charitable Trust, actively involving in all Seva projects, educational programs, and children programs. Doctor, we welcome you to this satsang.
Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you, Ravi. And now it's over to Dr. Shruthi.
Namaste. I hope everyone is doing well. And before beginning the talk, I would really thank School of Ancient Wisdom for organizing such inspiring webinars so that it helps people to stay fit mentally and physically even during the times of this pandemic. So now let me directly go on to today's talk. So in today's talk, I'm going to cover the following things. Number one is I'm going to give a brief outline about mind and brain. Then number two, I'm going to discuss about what is the cause of imbalance in human mechanism. Number three, how to gain the balance as per guidelines given by Yoga Shastras described by Patanjali Mahamuni in his Patanjala Yoga Sutra. So number four, I'm going to discuss what is the relationship between brain and mind and how scientific integrated yoga approaches to bring balance, and what are the side effects or ill effects of following unscientific yoga practices. So let me start with the lecture. And before starting my lecture, I would like to clarify one thing. Today, whatever I am going to talk is going to be in the context of Yoga Shastra. Even though I use terms like brain, cells, nervous system, this is used in the context of Yoga Shastra and not in the context of modern medicine. So please keep this in mind, and my talk is going to be purely based on the context of Yoga Sutras, and this is nothing what I am going to tell. It's already been given by our sage Patanjali Mahamuni and by our Guru Parampara. I'm just going to read it out, and I'm just a voice for my Parampara. So let me start. Human body is composed of 120 trillion cells, says science. Some of the body-brain system is on upward arc of evolution called as Vidya, and some are on the downward arc of involution called Avidya. This is not in a physical level, but in the subtle plane. Today, the contemporary world, most of the body-brain system is on the downward arc, that is involutory and animal type. This makes us animal in human form. It appears that the law which is driving human society is survival of fittest, and hence Darwin becomes god of such society. The sweet voice of Lord Patanjali, which says we are divinity in human form, expressing human life, is no longer heard. Noise within oneself is so high that he believes is evolved from monkey and not a child of God. Body-brain system has got two distinctive group of cells within all body-brain systems. It has not only two distinctive group of cells, but also two distinctive nervous systems sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Details will be dealt later on. So we need techniques which can evolve not only our cells but also our nervous system from animal type to human type and then into divine cells. When I mention animal to human and then divine, it doesn't mean at the physical plane. It is at the physiological and subtle plane. So every one of us have a conscious brain, individual mind, nervous system, memory, and soul within. All these factors are to be coordinated. And movement for the coordination, movement of communication is from body to brain, brain to individual mind to universal divine mind to divine fragment, of which we can divide it into two parts. The first part, called preliminary yoga practices, deals with coordination between body-brain system and brain to individual mind. The second part, which we call it as higher yoga practices, it deals with communication with individual mind to the universal divine mind and later universal divine mind to the divine fragment. Today, we are focusing upon the preliminary yoga practices. So now, how to evolve this nervous system and each and every cell in our body so that we shall totally evolve. Without the evolutions of individual cells, evolution of a human is not possible. So the purpose of Yoga Sutra is to show the aspirant how cells can be evolved systematically. So then the question which arises is there something called right practice, or what is the importance of practice in yoga? And is there any relationship between practice, right practice, wrong practice and non-practice to our physical mental ailments? Definitely there is a relationship. Physical and mental ailments are due to sick brain and sick mind. If brain is healthy, mind is healthy, and there is a proper practice. In other way, whenever there is a proper practice, our brain is healthy and the mind is also free from our psych nature. If there is a wrong practice or if there is no practice of yoga, that is yoga abhyasa, if there is wrong yoga abhyasa or no practice of yoga abhyasa, then it might lead to non-healthy brain and mind and hence physical ailments. So correct practice brings brain and mind back to health and body automatically becomes healthy. That is law of nature. Ill health is the first obstacle for yoga abhyasa. So now let us look into little more details about what is mind, what is brain and its interconnection. See, when I say mind, it is not just an individual mind. Actually, when I say mind, there is only one thing called mind. But in our experiential level, we experience it as individual mind, which is flowing through this individual body-brain system, and an universal mind, which appears to run outside of this body-brain system. So, whatever it is, whether it is individual mind or universal divine mind, modifications do take place in both because it is the basic weakness of the substance mind, that is to fluctuate in awareness. Both brain and mind are two important factors as per human beings are concerned, and both have weaknesses. Brain oscillates between past and future, whereas mind fluctuates between high and low awareness. If one's brain is oscillating between past and future, he is in dream state. He is not awake. So then, if mind is fluctuating between 0 to 100 awareness, it betrays you. That is why you have committed. That is why whatever you have committed when you are at high awareness cannot be delivered when you are at low awareness. Say for example, before going to bed at night, when your awareness is high, you decide to get up early in the morning at 4 a.m. to start your practices. But the next morning at 4 a.m. when the alarm rings, your awareness is not sufficient enough so that you cannot get up. And you won't get up. Self-betrayal. A self-betrayer betrays everyone around him. It doesn't matter how fast these modifications are in the individual mind and how slow it is in infinite mind. Modifications are very important. And these fluctuations are measured in the intensities of modification. And these intensities of modification depends upon the intensities of our emotions. When it comes to individual mind, we have love, hate, passion, greed. These are the emotions. In case of infinite mind, gravitation, magnetism, electric and electronic field, black holes are all emotions. Emotions by themselves are neither good nor bad. Say for example, electricity can freeze or boil. Metal can be a good conductor or a bad conductor of electricity and heat. These are all just an arrangement done by nature so that life is possible. It appears good or bad, positive or negative, depending upon the imbalances of quality that are involved. So emotions can be made to appear good or bad. How? How is that? Now let us go into detail how emotions are good and appear to be good and appear to be bad. But actually in reality, emotions are neither good nor bad. They are just emotions. Because that is how our world is designed to work. That is the design of the nature. But then how is this good and bad attached? Let us see. Let us continue our lecture. Behind all imbalance in qualities, motivation is the cause. Motivation is hidden. Emotions are expressed. I repeat, motivation is hidden. Emotions are expressed. What we get to know is our emotion. We never know what is the motivation behind that intention. Most of the time, we don't know this, and in exceptional cases. Similar to functioning of SRTK factors, the details of SRTK factors will be addressed in later part of the session, are hidden. The functions of SRTK factors are hidden. The actions arising out of the centers are exhibited. So we know what is the action coming, and we can be aware of the emotions, but not the motivation which is hidden behind emotion, but not the functioning of SRTK factor, which is the root cause for our action. So now, motivation, as our Shastras call it as karma. And intensity of motivation depends upon the intensity of karma, and it gets short or long cycles by certain cosmic calculations. Our Shastras call this motivation as desire. Only motive can be good or bad, which is directed by our individual identity. The cause for good and bad emotion is the desire, which is directed by our individual identity. Those desires which support my individual identity are good. Those desires which are not in line with my individual identity are bad. That's it. Karma means cause of further existence, and it requires births and deaths. Karma is painful or not painful depending upon the cause. Whether you do good actions or bad actions, both will lead us to the birth and death cycle. Both the actions, whether it is good or bad, that will put us in the loop of birth and death. So by and large, there is an imbalance in qualities of infinite mind because by and large, there are so many means for motives. So now, to balance the qualities is a natural state of mind. Mind, by its nature, has got an ability to be in the balanced state. When I say mind here, it is universal divine mind. Similarly, when an infinite mind which is flowing through individual body-brain system, we call it as an individual mind. So, even the individual mind is in balance in its natural state. That is, when mind is not involved with the processes of the conscious brain. I'll describe about the processes of conscious brain later. Before that, we will discuss about the universal divine mind. So in vast expanse, infinite mind is immeasurable in its extent, in which all the three universes float, namely Bhu, Bhuva, Vaha. This is the extent of universal divine mind. It is the expansion of the universal divine mind. In other terms, you can somewhere correlate the three universes to your molecular, atomic, and electronic world, but it is not the same. It's similar for us to get an idea because most of us are Western educated. So I'm just giving an analogy. You can correlate Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha to molecular, atomic, and electronic world. So now, the expanse is so vast and it is immeasurable. The expanse of the universal mind is very vast. So there are innumerable areas in this universal divine mind which suffer from imbalance, that is 0 to infinite awareness. This is the cause for existence. Even though it appears to be in imbalance, there is a counterbalance within the system so that universal divine mind per se is in balance. Something like positive and negative. Whenever there is a positive charge, there is a negative charge to balance. Similarly, even though it appears it is imbalanced at certain areas, it is counterbalanced by an opposing force so that as a whole, universal divine mind maintains its balance. So, depending on such areas and in such imbalance within wide spectrum prevails the human being, and life in such areas could be widely differing. We are one such part of the universal divine mind. So now let us come into individual level. All the experiences human being goes through are registered in frontal lobe of conscious brain. What we call it as registration area according to Yoga Shastra, which is also termed as SRTK centers. When I say SRTK, it stands for Sattva, Raja, Tama, and Kriya respectively. In other terms, it is intelligence, emotion, and sensation. SRT is the cause for our actions, that is Kriya, K. Sattva, Raja, Tama is the cause for the Kriya. This has been represented by SRTK factors, SRTK centers in the registration area, which is located in the frontal lobe of our brain, conscious brain. So, and this SRTK center is working continuously. This small area is responsible for our daily living, whether it is right or wrong. Everything arises from this center. So this is held by unconscious memory pool 1 and memory pool 2. Along with that, there is a communication link highway between the memory pool to the frontal lobe called as cortex, via cortex of the brain. That is 2 centimeters, 2 mm thick of the cerebral hemisphere. Outer part, 2 mm outer part of the cerebral hemisphere, what we call it as cortex, is a communicating highway between the memory pool 1 and memory pool 2 to the registration area of the frontal lobe. So this cortex is an information superhighway. So SRTK centers that what we call it as a conscious brain, memory pool 1, memory pool 2, along with the intercommunications, what Patanjali Mahamuni calls as thinking instrument or Alochana Yantra. This is the place from which our thoughts are popped out. This is a place through which we think. Registration area is the place where our thoughts are emitted through. So all the struggle in achievement such as yoga, peace of mind, religion, philosophy, everything takes place in this area of the brain. Since we are only conscious of this area, we call this area, that is the frontal lobe, as conscious brain. And we try to bring about all the corrections in this area. Normally, it is not possible. Normally, it is possible if proper methods are followed. But it is not as easy as we hear, because deep-rooted fears, doubt, inhibitions, hallucinations, obsessions, they are troubling us every now and then, and these have to be corrected first before giving any corrections in our conscious brain. Hence, and this is not there in the conscious brain. The location for these, the cause for these, the roots of these are somewhere else, which is not known to the modern science. Hence, yoga. That is why we need to practice yoga in our life. In yoga, first step is correction. That is yama and niyama. Everybody tries to apply yama and niyama in this area. That is the conscious zone of the brain. But everyone has 1 or 2 overpowering weaknesses which time and again oppresses him. He becomes miserable. So many times we try so many corrective methods to overcome so many weaknesses which we have identified for ourselves. We might be successful for a few days, but we are not successful in eradicating it from roots. And this is happening with all of us every now and then. Our life becomes miserable. He tries to correct his overpowering weaknesses within the conscious brain and becomes pathetic, because some type of fear, doubt have a very weakening effect on our body-brain system. Such overpowering weaknesses need most insignificant excuse to torment the individual, and students of psychology call it as hooks. So then, how does this hooks function? We have something called fast memory located in memory pool 1 and 2. A word of an equivalent word which is held in our memory is just enough to start spinning the hook. Passion, greed, anger, etc. emotions appear. This can tear off an individual ferociously. If one starts with yama, he remains in yama, because this area of brain, overpowering weaknesses mentioned above, are present within oneself for life after life, and they are carried life after life. Person gets frustrated because correction has to be done on some other part of the brain, but we are working on some other part of the brain. We have to give corrections at the unconscious plane, but we are only working in the conscious brain. Most of the time, it so happens, individual knows his weakness, and he always tries to talk about this within himself, but nothing works. This kind of self-conversation, rather, it puts us in a more pathetic condition, because this kind of self-conversation sinks him in deeper and deeper. This is rotated again and again in the conscious area of our brain, that is thinking instrument, and ingrained deeper in memory. Hence, Patanjali Mahamuni gives correction in 4 places in his Yoga Sutras, provided he is free from his overpowering weaknesses. Point to be noted here, to apply this correction, we need to be free from our overpowering weaknesses. So the corrective sutras which Patanjali Mahamuni mentions are 1.33, 2.10, 2.33 and 2.34. This is in the Ashtanga Yoga, Patanjali Yoga Sutras. You can just go back and refer. So first, how does Patanjali Mahamuni narrate this? First, he gives us a comprehensive understanding of yoga, and then he talks about yama and niyama. See, in Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga are first yama, next niyama, third asana, fourth pranayama, fifth pratyahara, sixth dharana, sixth dhyana, and ultimately 8th one is samadhi. So instead of going in this order, the first chapter of Patanjali Yoga Sutra is Samadhi Pada. So he gives a comprehensive understanding of what is yoga. Then he takes aspirants to asana and pranayama. See, when I say asana, it is nothing related to our physical postures. See, asana is something which is related to a brain. Asana is something which is related to our mind. And pranayama, when we say, it is not breathing. Or because in contemporary world, normally people equate breathing exercises to pranayama, but that is not what Patanjali Mahamuni mentions. Be very clear, breathing is not equal to prana, and oxygen is not equal to prana. Pranayama is different, your breathing exercises are totally different. So, initially, after giving a comprehensive understanding about yoga, Patanjali Mahamuni takes the aspirants to asana and pranayama. He talks about 4 grades of prana that is produced and circulated in human body brain system. I am very specific. 4 grades of prana that is produced and circulated in human body brain system. So regular practices of Patanjali Yoga Sutras can separate senses from sense organs. Then comes the condition called pratyahara, and then further called dhyana, samadhi, that will be dealt in the higher yoga practices. But such prana circulation must be constant. It can't be for just 1 hour or 2 hours. It should be for all 24 hours. So before circulating such higher grades of prana, that is 4th grade, first the prana has to be synchronized. So pranayama is upgrading your prana from lower grades to the higher grades, 4th being the lowest and 1st being the highest. Generally, most of the human beings, when we just take a human form, we are in 5th grade of prana. We need to acquire 4th grade of prana through our practices and then circulate it and then upgrade it. But before circulating, synchronization of prana is very essential. So, synchronization forms the first step of scientific integrated yoga. And synchronization of and circulation of higher grade of prana requires practice. This cannot happen just by philosophy. Practice is the key for it. But synchronization must always precede circulation. So now let us go little more detail about our mind. We have observed awareness is a state of knowing, rather accumulation of knowledge in memory. Better the awareness, better is the recording and registering, that is better knowledge we gain. But this awareness is a property of mind, be it an individual mind or an infinite mind. So this is not within the brain. Mind, please note, mind is not present within the brain. Brain is separate, mind is separate. Mind is subtle, brain is in the physical plane. So, awareness is a property of mind. Such mind is expected to be free from imbalance of qualities. A mind which is free from imbalance of qualities, which is free from modification, we call it as we call that state as Sat Chit Ananda. Mostly infinite mind is in emptiness or nothingness, that is balance and rhythm. These states are very powerful states and also very natural states. A balance is very much natural to universal divine mind, because that is how existence works. If not, there is no existence. We have also noted brain memory also accumulates knowledge as memory patterns. See, what is the role of a brain? Brain accumulates knowledge as memory patterns. This ability of brain is stupendous. But in spite of all this, brain has got a weakness, that is, it oscillates between past and future because it wants to be engaged perpetually. It cannot be idle even for a moment of time. So, for us to have a good memory recording by our brain oscillations has to be stopped. So most of the contemporary yoga practitioners, what they try to do is, they try to keep the brain engaged to prevent it from oscillating. This is the solution given by most of the contemporary yoga practitioners. But all these practices are like straightening the dog's tail, because brain cannot be put into any constructive work, or brain is of no use because you are always engaged in the practices. You cannot lead a normal life. You cannot lead a normal household life. Then what is the point in such a life? We have got a life to experience, explore, and to realize. If your brain is constantly engaged in some activities, then there is no point in living a life. You don't have a regular life. So, and even if you are successful in doing that, but it is of no use, because overpowering weaknesses are still present. We are only working in the conscious part of our brain. The overpowering weaknesses, which is there in some other area, that is the subconscious and unconscious area, are still having an influence on our conscious brain. An outburst in your emotion can swipe off all your actions, can change the direction of your action, can change the direction of your life. So, all these practices which you work on the conscious brain for 24 hours, it seems to be useless or impractical. right? So now let us go detail about the mind. So what is the quality of perception is within the mind. Awareness is a property of mind. Similarly, quality of perception is within the mind. Brain only grow and search for knowledge. Brain cannot work independent of mind. If there is no mind, if mind is not there behind, brain is a useless piece. Brain cannot record, brain cannot register any kind of knowledge. So, scientific integrated yoga practices combine the perceptual quality of the mind with the ability of a brain to learn. I repeat, scientific integrated yoga practices combine the perceptual quality of mind with the ability of the brain to learn. So, a pure mind is in a pure perceptive state, and it can throw light for the groping brain, and thus brain can see things properly without borrowing the knowledge, which is stored in the memory pool deep and memory pool shallow. That is pool 1 and pool 2. But unfortunately, this is not the education system throughout the world today. Most of us are unaware of the perceptual quality of mind. We are not working on the perceptual quality of mind. We are not working to bring a harmonious connection between the brain and mind. We are only trying to load information to the brain which doesn't have a proper connection with the mind. This is very pathetic, but still that is what is happening in the current society. The process of combining the perception of the mind to the ability of the brain to learn is called inter-exchange. I repeat this once again. The process of combining the perception of the mind to ability of the brain to learn is called inter-exchange. See, for us to live a life, we need right and wrong knowledge is very much essential. So, hence, right or wrong inter-exchange is also essential. Just as breathing is essential for us to live a life, inter-exchange is also equivalently essential for us to lead a life. So, whatever practices we do, initially it has to be in a conscious area, and later this has to be handed over to the unconscious areas of the brain. When inter-exchange is proper, it raises the quality of awareness. If awareness is weak, we are weak. Motive, desire, fear, doubt becomes basis of such a life. Motives and selfish desire are the basis of life, and these are opposite to rhythm. What rhythm? See, rhythm of pulse and breathe, rhythm of brain and mind, rhythm of prana and breathe. These three rhythms have to be maintained for us to lead a harmonious life. So this forms scientific integrated yoga practice. When these three rhythms are maintained by body-brain rhythm, body-brain rhythm is automatically maintained. This is possible with a practice which can be done for all 24 hours, yet your brain is free, yet you are able to focus both on the conscious as well as the unconscious areas of your brain. Not just the conscious area, but also the unconscious area. And this has to happen all 24 hours without holding your brain. That is, without engaging your brain, without, when I say without engaging the brain, you should be able to use your brain for your day-to-day constructive activities and normal life. You have to be practicing along with your normal life. It should be a part and parcel of your life. So, what Lord Patanjali Mahamuni says in his Yoga Sutra is, when yoga is achieved, that is 3-level ideal rhythmic breathing for all 24 hours, objective world cease to exist. So certain level of awareness has to be maintained in the individual mind and also in the infinite mind. If the awareness falls below that, that will bring imbalance in our individual mind, which is transmitted to the brain, to the individual body-brain system, resulting in physical ailments. So this awareness, which has to be maintained, is called as certain critical awareness. Certain critical awareness, in short, CCA. When awareness is above this level, one is in balance and rhythm. There must be right association of mind and brain. Improper interexchange can imbalance the mind. Proper interexchange can keep the brain always in state of non-oscillating. Okay, so interexchange is very essential and awareness has to be maintained. Yoga says there are 3 stages in breathing. One is Purak, what we call inhalation. Number 2, Kumbhak, holding the breath. Number 3, Rechak or exhalation. This becomes the basis of yoga practices. See, the breath, to this stages of breathe, the timing is given. So mostly what people teach as pranayama is they ask you to inhale for 2 seconds, hold for 8 seconds and breathe out for 4 seconds. This is supposed to bring a calming effect on your conscious brain. Right nowadays, because during this pandemic condition, you get lots of WhatsApp videos saying that if you do pranayama, your immunity increases. How does it work? There is an evidence, because when you are breathing in this particular ratio, when you hold your breath in Kumbhak, what happens is initially for 2 seconds, there is an exchange of oxygen from the atmosphere to the arterial blood. Okay, but in the later stages, there is an exchange of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to the arterial blood and from arterial blood to the tissues. So this carbon dioxide, which is in the arteries, not the carbon dioxide which is present in the venous blood. The carbon dioxide from the atmosphere in the arterial blood to the tissues, it exchanges in the free radicals derived from this carbon dioxide acts as a natural antibiotic and natural antiviral, and also bringing a calming effect on your brain. So that is how it works. So the ratio of breathing, what the people give when practicing pranayama is 2:8:4. So what we are working here in our SRTK center is the ideal ratio of these forces, that is sattva, raja, tama, that is intelligence, emotion and sensation, is 2:4:8. There is some relationship between our breathing and this factors in the forces in the registration area. So all the voluntary activities of the brain happens by central spinal nervous system, over which there is some conscious control, right? Certain things we can control, that we call it as voluntary activities of our brain. And it is to this system that we manifest our desires, thoughts, emotions and actions. For this we are able to carry out various pranayamas, right? Whatever we are trying to do is to have a good body-brain system, manifesting our desires and our emotions and our thoughts, right? So even our corrective exercises and initial stages of what we call as 3-level ideal rhythmic breathing also works on the similar ground. But there is a difference. Where is the difference is, see, normally whatever practices you do, that so-called pranayamas or like breathing techniques, whatever you adopt, see, you do it consciously, right? You do it consciously, and whatever activity you do consciously, this cannot be continuous. It becomes weaker over time period, and after some time, it gets out of control because your subconscious actions are trying to superimpose on your conscious activity. It is said that our conscious and the subconscious is perpetual as long as one is alive. We cannot free from this. Okay. So it is said that our unconscious is preceding deity of our body. It is forceful in action and perpetual in nature. See, it's very important to note this point. The subconscious is forceful in action, not just forceful, but perpetual in nature. That is what is causing the trouble. And medical science also agrees that if we gain control over conscious brain, we will not gain control over activities, because subconscious brain forces within control one's conscious activity, and it is very powerful that we cannot have control over every aspect of the life. See, for example, heart rate, right? Nervous impulses transmitted within your body-brain system. These are all subconscious, right? And this is happening all 24 hours. So because we are not taking so it is very powerful that way of pranayama, mudra, etc. are of no use, because we are only focusing upon the very small part of your brain called conscious brain. The huge portion of your brain, the unconscious part, is not accessed, and you are not aware of what is there within our subconscious part of the brain. So we have to do certain processes which are conscious in the beginning, and later, by proper methods, it has to be transferred to the subconscious and unconscious. So that correction is forceful and also perpetual. That is why 3-level ideal rhythmic breathing. So, why? Because breathing is the only function which is conscious as well as unconscious. You can consciously change it, and breathing happens unconsciously also. So it is very essential. You have to adopt certain rhythm, which is the rhythm of the nature and universal mind, and this practice has to be done consciously initially. And using certain methodologies, this conscious practice has to be transferred to the subconscious and unconscious brain. And breathe is the only access for us to the unconscious and subconscious. So unless one exercises control over one's unconscious layer, one can never be free from motives, desires, thoughts, emotions, and finally actions. He cannot experience true peace and happiness. So now let us see the subconscious and unconscious part and how it is related with our body-brain system. Subconscious is a poison. It is represented by sympathetic nervous system, which has got its headquarters in Manipura chakra, that is solar plexus. When I say solar plexus or Manipura chakra, please note it is not physical, it is in the subtle plane, subtle body level. So, primitive animal system. This is a primitive animal system sympathetic nervous system is a primitive animal system, and one is not yet free from its domination, and one cannot consciously activate parasympathetic nervous system. You might ask me a question that both the systems are present in a human being. Yes, when you are a child, both the systems are present, but over a period, as you grow as an elder, you lose the parasympathetic activity becomes minimal, and that is how it expresses as imbalance in your physical plane, because sympathetic and parasympathetic always function in coordination with If sympathetic system increases your heart rate, parasympathetic decreases your heart rate, and the sensation, the coordination factor is there within the body brain system. But that is not happening as you grow older, because your balance is lost, because your balance is not lost just at the physical plane, because you have lost the balance at the mental plane. So consciously activating unconscious parasympathetic nervous system is going to play a very important role in the future of human evolution, which brings harmony. So if we are able to consciously practice 3-level ideal rhythmic breathing, and by proper method, if we are able to transfer it to the unconscious, job will be done. So the practice which we are adopting here is 3-level ideal rhythmic breathing. Initially conscious, and later using certain methodologies, we transfer it to the subconscious and unconscious layers of our brain. And this will be very potential, perpetual, forceful tool till the end of the life. Not only for few days or few hours, but this is going to be with us till the end of our life. So no so-called pranayamas, bandhas, mudras, yogasanas, so-called meditation, 84 yogasanas, body postures are of no use, because all these are working only in your conscious part of your brain without cutting the roots in the unconscious. They do not have any access to the unconscious layers of your brain. The roots are in unconscious. If you do not root out, it goes on spurting time and again. So 3-level ideal rhythmic breathing is the only practice which can be done for all 24 hours, because breathing is very much natural. You are breathing 24/7, and that breathing can be conscious as well as unconscious. Initially consciously correct your breathing, and then adopt these changes, shift it to the subconscious and unconscious planes using certain methodologies. So yet when you are doing this process, your conscious brain is not engaged always. Right? You are breathing. Right now you are breathing. Is your conscious brain engaged? No. You are able to do your day-to-day activities, normal routine, in spite of you breathing. Similarly, this practice will not engage your brain, will not keep you engaged in practice throughout the day. Rather, instead, it gives you a way to practice and lead your life normally. So practice is incorporated within your day-to-day activities. You don't have to give time. People who say, I don't have time, this is the best method for you to practice, and this is the simplest practice which we can do. The only requirement for us to practice this is we should be breathing. That's it. No other requirement. So this rhythmic, and yet one is, even though one is doing this practice for all 24 hours, one conscious brain can be kept free for use, and also normal life is possible. This is rhythmic because it is natural, original, based on the correct rhythm, and this is based on Swara Nadi Shastra. We live by brain, right? All of us are living right now. How are we living? We are living by our brain. And we shall continue to live. How? By our brain. But unfortunately, we live only as a small part of our brain. That is only the conscious part of our brain. We do not have access to the larger portion of our brain, which is unconscious. So, scientific integrated yoga practice makes us to activate and use our brain completely. Fortunately, Yoga Shastra is not interested in any philosophy. Sage Patanjali has not wasted a single breath in philosophizing, nor your breath is wasted. He inspires you to work upon yourself directly. See, we keep a watchman for a factory to keep a watch on the articles of the factory, right? So, but we cannot afford to have such watchman to our brain, because most of the part of the brain is unconscious, which we are not aware of, right? Nobody knows how it is working. It is completely a dark room for us. The unconscious brain is completely a dark room for us. So no watchman can watch it, activities. So we are at mercy of our brain. It can work the way it wants. It becomes angry, it destroys all your relationships, it becomes lazy, and we lose everything. See, we are at the mercy of this brain, which is unconscious. And we have access only to a very small part of the brain, and we think we have achieved so much. But there is a lot to do in life. Working only in this small portion of our brain will not fetch us any result. So it becomes lazy and you lose everything. See, the only oppressor in the whole world is your brain. There is no other oppressor in the world. The only oppressor is your own brain. It is the source of all oppressions in the world. It accumulates emotion over time immemorial and makes us to do what it wants to do. This anger and negative emotions, they live in the unconscious layers to which we do not have any access. It makes us to do what it wants to do. In the grip of anger, we don't know what we are doing. In the grip of our jealousy, we do what we don't want to do in our life. And we end up saying, I didn't wanted that. I didn't mean that. I didn't intended that. I didn't wanted to do that. And so on and so forth. So many conversations similarly. So then, now the question is, so how to correct these things? How to keep a watch on this? How to employ a watchman for the brain so that we can evolve, do better, and have a higher life? That is 3-level ideal rhythmic breathing. Essentially forms the basis of scientific integrated yoga. Because there is a direct relationship between your breath and your emotions. So whenever there is imbalance in your subtle plane, in your mind, that can be balanced by your breathing. But then this doesn't happen overnight. And this doesn't work when you are in the grip of your emotion. You need to practice when you are free from your oppression. You need to practice this in your normal life. Only then that can come handy in your at times of emotional outburst and ego crisis. So which only this can act as an external vigilance. That is 3-level ideal rhythmic breathing can act as a guard, act as an external vigilance to one's internal state. But it also provides an opportunity to contact the unconscious layers of the brain consciously. And this is very much essential for us to adopt any corrective techniques for our thinking instrument. So, before concluding, I would like to give a classification of human population based on the yoga practices. We can broadly classify the human existence into 5 stages. The first stage, wherein most 80% of the population dwell, they do not have, they don't practice any kind of yoga, nor they know and they are aware of any such practices, or nor they know the need for the practices. So 80% of the population are in this category. They do not do anything for higher life. In precise, if you want me to tell, it is an animal type of living in human body who lives by desires and instinct. They live just as an instinct, just like an instinctive animal. So the remaining 20%, of which 99.9% forms the second category. So they have realized that there is something which is beyond where I have certain weaknesses and that has to be corrected. So they want they're looking for an aid in the form of practices, but mostly they do not, they are not successful in finding out a certain right practice. They become victims of wrong and unscientific practices and fragmented yoga practices. And normally these are the population who keep floating from one guru to another guru, from one organization to another, and they get stuck up in their life. Till one point it seems like it is moving, but after a certain point they feel they are stuck up. And the next category is the third category. It's very few people who have found out the integrated yoga practice, which is based on sound grounds of Patanjali Yoga Sutra given by Lord Patanjali himself, and which is transmitted from guru to disciple by word of mouth, and this cannot happen by reading literature. And an authentic guru, hence an authentic guru parampara, and which has a lineage kept alive right from Patanjali Mahamuni till today by transcendental masters. So the next category of people, the third category, are people who are practicing scientific integrated yoga. I have defined what is scientific integrated yoga. So the next is fourth category of people. These are those who are free from oppressions and memory. That is, totally bypass their memory. And they are very, very rare. Normally you can see normally you can say you cannot find them. Okay, not seen. Normally not seen at all. Then the fifth category of people are very, very, very rare, who are established in the perception and they are capable of spiritual reading, who can go anywhere in the universe in no time and can read out the purpose of existence of not only an individual but also each and every object. Not only the purpose but also the spiritual occurrence of each and every object. Such was the stage of our sages, who were able to know the distance between the sun and the moon, who were able to know not only the planet Earth which support life, but also Ashtavasus which support the human life, which modern science is yet to explore. Right? These are all mentioned in our Vedas. That was the state in which our rishis lived. And currently you can say it is very difficult to find such people, or you can say there are no people in this stage. So with this, I conclude by welcoming you all to join us in the path of scientific integrated yoga and internal journey laid on by Lord Patanjali Mahamuni in the form of Yoga Sutras. Before that, and I thank everyone, especially School of Ancient Wisdom, for giving me this opportunity to share few words about our practices. Thank you. Any questions?
What is the way forward to join this scientific integrated yoga?
I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you this.
What is the way forward? Is there any? What would you suggest? How do we make a beginning?
Just a minute. For this, we have an organization called Sadiksha Public Charitable Trust, and we organize programs for both residential and non-residential, wherein you can come and learn this 3-level ideal rhythmic breathing. Residential program is for 4 days. Mostly we conduct it in School of Ancient Wisdom. And non-residential program is going to be for 10 days, 2.5-hour sessions, 2.5-hour sessions every day. And both the programs are free of cost. You can have my number, or you can even contact Ravi Jaral sir. My number is 94.
Okay, is there any website reference you can put it on the chat?
We have a site, but most of us, we don't, and whenever, see, this is not, we are not a professionals in this, conducting this program. We are all living our normal day-to-day life, and in that, in between that, when we find time, we organize programs. So myself, I'm a doctor, there are certain engineers, lecturers, housewives, everyone come together and organize this program. So whenever we organize a program, we will put a word. Please give your contact details to me and you can register yourself. Whenever we organize a program, because of this pandemic, we are not organizing any programs for from past one year. And I don't know how next when we are going to, because of this external situation. And this is going to be a live program. This cannot be an online session. So please take down my contact number. Ravi sir has it, or you can take down online. My name is Shruthi. My contact number is 944 9568 437. So you can text me on this number. I will save your details and let you know when we organize a program.
If you can repeat it, it will have 944
9568
9568
437.
437.
That's it.
9568 437.
944 9568 437.
944. Thank you.
Yeah. Any doubts regarding today's talk? Any questions?
Yes, Dr. Shruthi, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Namaste, this is Ramesh.
Yeah,
thank you.
Questions?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. So,
One second.
yeah, so thank you, Dr. Shruthi. It was an amazing session, especially since I'm really interested in these areas. I truly believe that this kind of knowledge should be included into our school curriculum, in fact. And that is what makes, that is what will make Bharat different, you know, and it will delve into our ancient knowledge and make this country great. So I'm personally very convinced about that. I was wondering if, as an organization or as an individual, if you have done something to forward this kind of knowledge into regular mainstream education, because it looks very promising.
Yes, we have done an effort, but that was of not much use, because whatever educational institute they have approached, they allow us to do the programs, but on later on they use us for their admissions and promoting their institution. But they didn't allow us to, because see, this cannot be done over 1 or 2 days, teach and leave it. Because if you take it, what our Guruji says is, if you sincerely adopt it and if you give corrective techniques for child who is with the age group of 14 to 16 years, it is very easy for them to adopt, so that their thinking instrument is free from the oppressions of the subconscious and unconscious brain. And that can be done very easily, but we don't have access in the institutions because they are mostly focused on their curriculum and their education, their formal education. But we as an organization, we are doing that. We have a group of children. I have been conducting this program all over Karnataka and few parts other than Karnataka. And we have a bunch of children, because parent support is also very essential, because child is not an independent being in this group. So we have, and we are working on that. We are conducting classes for children also. We teach this for children in children classes. And we also go to institutions and organizations and give this program. And this program is free of cost. Wherever they organize the program, we are ready to go and do it. And I've been doing this everywhere. And we also conduct children's programs every year. Minimum 2 programs will be conducted every year.
So
Thank you. Any more questions?
Yeah, I have one question. Let Ramesh finish. Ramesh finish it. Yeah.
I think Ramesh is finished.
Okay. Shruthi, I have a question. See,
Yes.
I am a hypnotherapist and I work with the subconscious mind.
Yes.
So you were talking about the pranayama and how it can access the only thing that can access the subconscious mind. I was just wondering, would you be able to take some classes for us just on pranayama? And it could be done online, maybe 1 or 2 sessions.
Excuse me. This has to be whatever I have given today is not just a theory or not just a philosophy. For us, practice is very important, and that we can give it. That can be part. See, initially when we are learning the basic thing of ideal rhythmic breathing, we need to be in contact. We need to be live. So then if later on you can have an online session, and this cannot be given in bits and pieces, just the pranayama or just a thing, because it is an integrated approach for our sadhana. It should be integrated. Okay. Only then it can work, not in bits and pieces.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
I have 2 more questions.
Yes.
Quickly, Ramesh. Others you must ask.
Let others finish and I will ask after that.
No, you finish yours quickly.
Okay. So one was that I came across this. I'm very interested in this and very passionate about this topic, Dr. Shruthi, which is why I'm asking you. I came across this concept which I think will be useful for everybody to know also. In my son's school, the Waldorf School, which spoke about the research which Dr. Steiner had done using our ancient Upanishads, which says that we have multiple bodies, the Annamaya Kosha, the Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha. Forget about the Anandamaya Kosha for now. Now, these 4 bodies, if they are correctly identified, it seems that each human being cyclically goes through development of 7 years for each body. Like from 0 to 7, it's the Annamaya Kosha. So, which means that if you feed the child of the 5 senses of the child the correct way, it can become very strong. Next, the Pranamaya Kosha, where the emotions are being developed. So, do you recognize this kind of cyclical development of each kosha in your approach?
Yes, it's not cyclical development, not just cyclical development. We address it as a overall. It is not just the 5 koshas. As per our shastras, we have got 7 bodies. We are going to deal it in the different levels. Initial course, we are going to deal with the gross body and subtle body. Then the later courses, subtle body and in the higher courses, subtle body and the causal body. And then whatever is beyond is about the scope of higher yoga practices. So we do, and these 5 koshas are part of this. See, each and every individual divides it in a different way. So these 5 koshas are divided into 3 bodies. For example, Annamaya kosha is in the physical plane. Manomaya and Pranamaya is in the subtle body. Vijnanamaya is in the causal body. So that is how they divide. The division is basically different, but these all do exist, and that also has to be addressed, and that is being done.
Oh, wonderful. And the last question I have is, since this would be a part of alternative education, I hope this comes into our Indian mainstream soon, but from mainstream schools and for people to even recognize it, they need solid proof. So in your education system, when you have educated children, do you have data for solid proof where they start performing much better than the average people, be it in sciences or gymnastics or sports and what have you, arts?
We are not working upon the results, but because it is more internal rather than the physical plane. So we cannot, these two, see, kindly excuse me, these two are a different context, right? What modern science requires as a proof is in a total different context or different plane. What we are working is in a total different plane. Those two cannot be mixed up. You can give some proofs, but I have not collected any data in such things. But my personal experiences and people's personal experiences are there.
Because so many people are
not only for this lifetime, not only in their academics, but also for your entire life, not only in your performance of your brain, but you also as a human being as a whole. Your emotions, your interactions, your relationship, everything has to be recognized, that has to be corrected.
Very true. Thank you for that, Dr. Shruthi.
I just wanted to add.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have some points, Sajani.
Yes.
I am Janaki Ram. I first thank the doctor for giving the
Yes,
challenge.
go ahead,
It was a
Mr.
very
Janaki.
good talk. But
Thank
my
you.
point is on the statistics you quoted about humanity, but you should also moderate it with the role of religion in elevating the character and consciousness of people.
That doesn't have any role, sir. Clearly, it has been ruled out because everything, whatever you say, it is only working in your conscious brain, right? Initially, to maintain a social harmony and a social construct to be maintained, the religious system has put certain do's and don'ts. These are all just rituals. So rituals don't have any role in the evolution, internal evolution. See, externally your behavior can be modified, but internal evolution, religion has no role. That is, the practices of religion has no role because they all work in the conscious area of your brain. Am I clear?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if we have no questions, then I request Deepti John to kindly propose a vote of thanks.
On behalf of the School of Ancient Wisdom, I wish to express my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Shruthi. Her insights on holistic health are certainly useful in today's society, ridden as it is with so many problems, which I personally believe require holistic solutions. Not everyone aspires to be a doctor, and becoming one, as we know, is no easy task. So we wish Dr. Shruthi all the best for her future endeavors in serving humanity with her knowledge and expertise. That itself is worth admiring.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deepti. And now I request Ramesh to kindly chant the Loka Samasta. All of you kindly close your eyes and listen to the chant. Over to you, Ramesh.
Thank you, Sajani. Thank you so much, Dr. Shruthi. You've touched upon a topic that is very passionate to many of us, I think. And I really pray that the very best happens to the entire universe, in fact, with this kind of knowledge becoming available. So on that note, let us keep in our hearts all our loved ones, our friends, who require us to remember them, who require the healing in this current scenario worldwide. And please sit straight with your back, neck, and head aligned. Let the prana flow through. Take a deep breath and become aware as you breathe out. Become aware of the silence within. That is who we truly are. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ तत्सत् ब्रह्मार्पणमस्तु। Thank you, everyone. We can't hear you, Sajani.
Okay. Thank you, Ramesh, and thank you, everyone. I'd like to inform everyone that we have regular programs. We have programs on Thursday, the Sathsang, Friday, we have on Saturday, and on Sundays now we have started special healing programs for all the people who've been going through COVID. We've had 3 so far, and we'll be having 1 on Sunday, which is coming. Now, we have the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know if we still have it. However, we have the Bhagavad Gita on Fridays. On Saturday, we have Vani programs. On Friday, we have Vani's programs. On Saturday, we have Anand's programs. On Sunday, we have special programs, healing, singing hymns. This time, it will be Christian hymns. And Rob took that out. The next Thursday, we have Dr. Dham, and he will be speaking on enlightened living. So for those of you who would like to be on the School of Ancient Wisdom on our mailing list or on the WhatsApp group, kindly give your name and number, put it in the chat, and you will be included in all the notifications that go out. So kindly put your name and number, and we will inform you about all the programs we have. So thank you once again for being with us. Thank you, Shruthi. And we look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow for Vani's program. Good night. All the best. Good night. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you all. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
And please join tomorrow.